Welcome back to Between Frequencies, the space where science meets spirit and where we unpack the invisible things that shape how we move through the world. Today, I'm sitting down with Andrea and Lindsey, the founders of Andrea Co., a spiritual coaching practice built not just on intuition, but on lived experience, deep healing, and a shared mission. These two are spiritual development coaches, energy healers, and intuitive guides. But more than that, they're real women who've walked the shadow path and come out the other side more empowered, more attuned, and more aligned than ever. And they're just cool. Their journey began back in 2018 when a chance meeting quickly turned into something far more significant. In 2020, they discovered they were twin flames, and that realization set off a rapid spiritual awakening that became the foundation for everything they teach today. Together, they healed lifetimes of trauma, built a thriving spiritual business, and raised 5 children in a blended family. God bless you. All while developing their signature process, NeuroSoul Integration. NeuroSoul is not your average coaching method. It fuses shadow work, nervous system regulation, subconscious reprogramming, and soul retrieval into one deeply transformative container. It's designed to help spiritually awakening women move through burnout, confusion, and fear, and into clarity, leadership, and soul-aligned action. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what shadow work really is, not just in theory, but how it shows up in your daily life. We'll hear how Andrea and Lindsey use it in their work, how it shaped their own growth, and how NeuroSoul was born out of their own lived healing. So if you've ever felt stuck, scattered, or like your inner world is louder than your outer one, stay tuned and let's get between the frequencies. Hello, ladies. Good to see you.
Hello. It's so good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Yes. I love having conversations with you. You're so fun to talk to. I've been on your show. You've been on my show. I feel like we have a good connection. It's wonderful to talk to you, ladies. And you are really specialists in something that is very deep to my heart, right? One of my undergraduate studies were in psychology. And so shadow work to me is something that is vastly overlooked in the personal journey. And I think a lot of people forget that it has its basis in psychology. This is not something that was just invented out of the womb. This is something that a American psychologist helped develop to help us become more deeply connected with ourselves. So can you, for our audience, can you define what shadow work is for you guys and how that applies in life as you're going through it today?
All right.
So I think to put this in the most simplest terms, shadow work is simply the process of meeting the parts or rediscovering the parts of yourself that you had to hide or that were changed and altered through the process of like growing up. And for a lot of us being in survival mode.
Yeah, that's a big one. And you put those pieces of yourself in that shadow because it feels unsafe to have it in the spotlight. And sometimes that then becomes the trigger, right? We go through life and our triggers start to go off and we can't understand, why is this annoying me so much? Well, everything's a reflection, right? So can you tell me a little bit, what are some of the biggest misconceptions or misunderstandings about shadow work and what it actually involves? Because from my own experience, and not saying this about every client, but I find that a lot of clients really want to heal until you tell them, okay, this is how you do it. And then they're like, oh, I think I'm all right. So I'm curious, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions people have when they start wanting to work with their shadow?
There's a couple.
Yeah.
I think like one of the really big ones is like thinking that it's going to be as, difficult as the original experience that caused the beliefs, the subconscious beliefs that they're now living off of. And we always tell people like, choose your hard, because you're living every day running from a program that was created to keep you in survival. And it's now actually working to your detriment. And creating toxic relationships, keeping you from being unfulfilled, robbing you of joy every day. And it's like, we can sit down with you for like an hour and go through this. And it's like ripping off a Band-Aid in a very safe and gentle way. And you'll feel 100 times better the next day. Whereas you could, versus living this you're already living the hard. Facing it is easy compared to that, you know?
Right.
And, the the other aspect of like shadow work is a lot of people tend to think that it may just be a one-time thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people are like, I did my shadow work, and we're like,
I run into that a lot. I do. I get that a lot from clients, and I will absolutely not. I've done. It's an ongoing process because we continue to be human beings, and therefore we continue to cast a shadow. It's just how it works.
And shadow work is what we now say, especially in this time of like the ascension process and just in general of life, like where we're at with the energies coming in. Shadow work is very much now a non-negotiable. It is a part that we cannot overlook. It cannot be bypassed. It has to be addressed because it is the next step in your evolution. It is that one thing that people do all of this surface level work, but when they tell you that all the answers you need are within you, it's pointing to your shadow work because it is what is covering up the essence of who you really are. It's covering up your power. It's covering up your authenticity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so absolutely.
Yeah. And speaking of like frequencies, like as the frequencies of the planet elevate, we're being pulled to elevate with them. Mm-hmm. And anything that doesn't match that frequency, energy wants to be with similar energy. Yeah. And so anything that doesn't match it is going to naturally come to the surface to be released. Mm-hmm. And so many people are like, I don't want to do that. No, it's going to happen anyway. So it's either you do it the hard way or you do it the easy way. You look at it and say like, all right, this is here to show me something. I'm ready to release this, or you can run from it, but it's still going to create that same kind of like chaotic feeling in your life. Yeah. One is in your control, one's out of your control.
What's a good indication for somebody that shadow work is maybe something they need to focus on? Because I think it's unrecognized in a lot of people and they just feel stuck. So when someone comes to you, what is something they might say to you that you're like, aha, now this is what you're ready for and this is what we can do? What kind of patterns do you see with that?
I would say patterns that we usually see is we hear this all the time. I feel stuck.
Like that's like, there's no other word sometimes to summarize it.
Yeah. Or those that are on the spiritual journey, they're like, I feel like I have learned so much, but I can't seem to get past where I'm at, or I am here but I don't want to,
they don't know how to apply the things that they've learned. They're like, I have crystals. I connect with my spirit council. I'm doing I'm doing energy work. I'm doing all of these things, but I can't seem to have a happy relationship. I feel unfulfilled. I don't, every day I'm like riddled with anxiety, right. And really when we talk to these people, the places that they're stuck are like, it's like bringing that beautiful, high vibrational, spiritual feeling into this human existence.
It's about embodiment. And a lot of them they have it in their minds, but they can't embody what they know that they are, that they want to be. And even in more like everyday terms, we see people who suffer with really bad anxiety, intrusive thoughts. They have very low like self-esteem, or they know that they're worthy, but then they still like shut down. They've learned to like own their truth, and they've started to maybe like, I know who I am and I'm doing well for myself, but when I get around my family, I just shut down, or I feel like a kid again. Those types of things. It's
a lot of people pleasing. A lot of empaths who are like, I'm just an empath and this is how it is to be an empath. I feel everybody's stuff all the time. And I have headaches for days because I just pick up energy, and they don't realize that there's big shadow work around boundaries there, because even like taking on other people's energy is a choice in like subconsciously. And so people think it's normal, but if you're not comfortable in your body, your mind, or spirit, you're like, there's something that's ready to go.
Right. When you're out of balance, you can feel it. You can feel that dissonance between where you should be and where you are. And that goes back to the idea is energy, emotions are energy. I think Mr. Hicks is famous for saying, It's emotion, energy in motion. It's intended to give you an indication of where you are vibrationally regarding your alignment. So when that sadness comes in and registers, it's supposed to show you, hey, you're a little bit off track. It's not meant to weigh you down or keep you sad. And a lot of empaths, I think they have the mistaken belief that they need to take that sadness from someone. And that's not your job as an empath. Your job as an empath is to help them transmute it themselves by offering support and holding space. And I think that's another misconception that we could probably do a whole show on. But that's part of the shadow work of an empath, is feeling like they must self-sacrifice in order for their better good. And that's just not true. That's not how it works. And that kind of leads me right into the next question I have for you. When people come to you, what do they usually come thinking they need, and what do they actually need? I love this question because it happens to me all the time. I'll start a session with someone. I'm like, my phrase is, I say, hey, it's great to be here with you. How can I best be of service for you today? And the person will say, well, can you tell me what choice I need to make here? And I'm like, no. And they go, well, why did I come here? I go, well, let's talk about why you're worried about the choice. Let's talk about where your insecurities are. Let's talk about that part of it. And then you can make the choice. Right. So I'm curious, how does that play out with your clients and how your work works, I guess?
I would say one of the biggest ones we have is we have clients that come to us because they want to know how to get their Clair abilities to come online. Yeah. And they leave knowing that they already have they already have those abilities. Everything they need is already in them. It's just they're covered up. And so we need to get to the source of what is covering up those abilities that they want to unlock.
That, and like, people want to know what their next steps are. And I know this because we did the same thing for years. Like and reaching out. I always believed that if I could communicate more with spirit and my spirit council, my higher self, that everything would be fine because I'd have the guidance and I could just follow it, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't connect. And so I kept just thinking, like, if I go and get a reading from somebody, then I'll have what I need. And they would never give me, I would never get that. Like, there was never that moment of like, that's exactly, nothing ever scratched that itch, because there was this learning and growth I had to do to know that I was worthy of receiving guidance. In the first place. Like, I had a big trauma around worthiness. And until I knew that I was worthy on a soul level, subconscious level, I mean, that guidance wouldn't come in. And so we get a lot of people who are like, yeah, this will fix it. And we get it because we were there too. But really what's going to fix it is you becoming whole in yourself and knowing that you can do all of these things yourself. Yeah. And you'd be surprised at people we had a woman who she could not see anything within her inner vision. So even when someone would tell her a story, there are people who, and I didn't know this for a long time until TikTok, honestly, and some people listening might be like, oh, that's me, that when you are describing something, they don't visualize it. Right. And this one woman we worked with, she's like, yeah, it's just black. In my mind, she's like, I'll know things, but I can't see it. And by the end of one of our shadow work regression sessions that we had done as a group with or within our coaching program, she's like, I just saw things and had no idea that it was attached to a belief around, what was it? I'm not enough, or like not believing. It was around worthiness. Yeah. Not being worthy of seeing.
Yeah. I noticed I have a lot of clients that they get hung up on the idea that you must be special in order to have access to your clairs. And what I try to tell people is I want to remind you that what makes you special is that you know they're there, friend. 90% of the world is walking around blind to the idea that they even have this connection. So if you're looking for something to make you feel special, just the fact that you know it's available to you is all the special that's required. We all have access to all of the clairs on every level, just in different strengths. Some people play piano very well naturally. Some people have to take a lot of lessons. And it's like that with your clairs. And be kind and, be nice to yourself. And I think it's a lot too of learning to stop what you're doing. It's not what are you doing wrong? It's what you need to stop doing, which is a lot of negative self-talk, focus in the wrong direction, that sort of thing. So I couldn't agree more with you. I think that's a big thing that I see even with my own clients coming forward. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we often tell people it's not about adding more on more of how-tos. It's about uncovering, unpacking that brings what it is that you really want.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, a lot of people believe that, you know, if I had this ability, then it would be easy. I could just hear spirit. I could just know things. And what's crazy is spirit, like the universe will never give you something that you're not ready to embody.
Right.
And so there are a lot of times where you're not seeing something because you're not ready to be there. So you'll do the shadow work around it, and then it'll be safe to see. It'll feel safe in your body, and then it'll come in.
Right.
If you're somebody who you shut down your inner vision on purpose as like probably a kid, because there was something terrible that you didn't want to look at, you know, whether that was like a traumatic event, it was ongoing trauma, it was something caused that in your system. And if you were just to open that up without gently kind of like allowing that to happen, and then all of a sudden you see like a spirit standing in front of you, it's going to scare the shit out of you. And then you're going to spend all that time processing and second guessing yourself. And so it's so much easier, and people don't realize this, is like, it's easier actually to work on yourself first, safely open those doors. And then when you're ready, there's no surprise, there's no shock.
Yeah,
it just comes in naturally.
And I think a lot of these things are subconscious, and they come from our culture. Because when you look at our pop culture, for example, things like demons and all this stuff are heavily portrayed in a certain way, and it can plant fears inside of you that you're not even fully conscious of. But, you know, the idea of using a Ouija board, right? I had a client who was very upset that someone had a Ouija board, and I kept asking her, why does that make you upset? She said, well, what if it's connected to the devil? What if it's, and I said, where did you get that? And she said, well, I saw this show and this movie and this, and I go, right. You realize that's entertainment, right? Nothing can hurt you if you don't give it permission. You are a sovereign being. You are in charge of your energy at all times. You just have to recognize that. Once you do, it's like flipping a switch, and nothing can get to you. And not to say there aren't malevolent energies or whatever. I don't even know enough about it to speak to it, but I know that a Ouija board, that tarot cards, crystals, pendulums, whatever it is, these are only permission slips that your psyche uses so that you can communicate with your higher self, because you have some resistance to a direct line. And a lot of time that comes from religious trauma, where you were told, oh, don't speak directly to God, or from parental trauma. Middle school probably does that to all of us, you know, like all of these things that people don't think about. Because I've had clients tell me, I don't have any trauma. I don't have anything to work on. I'm like, oh, I assure you, you do.
We get that too.
Yeah. And it's not about your parents were bad people. It's not about they hurt you on purpose. It's about everyone is human. Everyone's doing the best they can. And when you know better, you do better. Right. So maybe that's part of this process. So I agree. I couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah,
it does. It comes down to beliefs. Like, we have a really good example we use that kind of breaks it down, because it's really good that you said, like, even in culture, like your culture, you can develop, you know, belief systems that don't serve you. So you have, not only do you have your inner emotional world, you also have your home, your family, you have your community, you have your religious background. Like, there's so many different areas that affect you. Even like education is a really big one, because so much happened at school when you can have great parents, you can have a loving home, but these kids a lot of times will experience things in school. And that could be like the foundation of, you know, some of their biggest traumas and beliefs that they carry. But an example we always use is, you know, you are this big, beautiful soul that is coming in online, has, you know, all of this, remembers all of these aspects within you, and you get birthed in. And we like to use the example of like being like a baby lion cub coming into a pack.
Yeah.
And when you come in, you cannot feed yourself. You don't know how to walk yet. You don't, like, all of your basic survival needs, you have no idea how to do. So you are completely vulnerable to the world around you, to the people that are caring for you. And as you start to grow, you learn within that pack, this is how I get food. Watching them hunt for food, or like, right. So it's like, and this is what we do if we feel scared, because this is what my mama lion does, or this is what the pack members do. Right. So that's how I protect myself. We are constantly in a world of observing and learning what to do and what not to do based off of our surroundings and the people that are leading that way for us. And we create a system of beliefs. That's the foundation of our subconscious. And that is what
becomes our identity.
It becomes our identity. And this is what we run off of until we change the script, which is our belief center.
So where you get hung up is when, you're out of line and Daddy Lion backhands you and is like, no. And then you learn, okay, when I try to explore and have fun, I get hurt. And there were some of us that grew up with physical punishment. There were some of us that grew up with verbal abuse where, looking back, you might be like, that was just how people parented then. But anything that dimmed your light while you were growing up taught you it's not safe to be me here.
Right.
We get a lot of people who one of their biggest core beliefs is it's not safe to be me.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel safe being you, then you'll stop yourself without even realizing it from showing up. Maybe you want to be a social media influencer. We have a lot of people who are afraid to be seen because when they're seen, they're hurt.
Right.
And they're like fighting tooth and nail to overcome that without realizing that there's a belief holding them back.
Yeah.
And so like it influences every part of your life. Within relationships, we see it a lot. Like you'll have the same toxic relationships. Why do I keep attracting the same man? I always attract narcissists. And the first thing we ask is like, what were your parents like? What was your relationship with your father like?
How did you learn to keep yourself safe? That's a question I ask people a lot.
Yeah.
How did you, what behavior did you learn that you immediately associated with safe? And for me, that looked like being very quiet, shut down and withdraw from the space, because if you can't see me, you can't hurt me.
Yeah.
So that was a big one for me, And I don't think people realize how intense those pieces are inside of us because it's just become normal habit.
Right.
But, I once had a chronic illness. It's gone now, thank goodness. But something that I recognized is you don't realize how sick you are until you're not sick anymore, because that's become your normal. So you think that this feeling is how everybody feels. This is how you're supposed to feel. But the truth of the matter is that's not true. You are feeling the result of your decisions to perpetuate this behavior. And something else I would love people to remember is shadow work is not about calling your parents or your friends terrible people. It's not about that at all. It's about recognition of a fact. This is how I feel, right? And movement forward. This is what I'm going to do to change that feeling. It's not about you did this to me and oh my God, it should have. Nope, that's not how it works. It's not about that. It's about accountability. I am in charge of myself. Yeah. I make my own choices. And getting that power back is really incredible for people. I've seen it transform lives, which leads me to my next question. So I think it's really great when we can show people we can apply what we're talking about to real life. So what role did shadow work play in your own transformation? And was there a moment where everything sort of clicked or cracked open for you two?
Yes.
I wish you could see the look on their face right now.
It's one of those like, where to begin with this one?
It's interesting. We get this question a lot, and this is like twofold. So because we eat, breathe, sleep, and live shadow work every single day. And yes, we teach it, but one of the biggest reasons why that is because it's a huge part of our dynamic and us as which we're not going to get too far into, but we are divine counterparts, which is also known as twin flames. And there are, contrary to belief, there are many different types of twin flames.
Absolutely.
There's not
That's
just
another, we could do a whole show on that.
Yeah. A lot of people think that there's only twin flames or twin flames, and that's just not the case. There are many different types of twin flames, and the type of twin flame that Lindsey and I our divine counterparts are what is known as ascension flames or ascension beings. So we're also mission beings. So we are here to heal ourselves, but also to heal the collective. And what we specialize in as we unravel within our own journey of that is the psycho-spiritual somatic aspect of the human experience, and how to finally release ourselves from what has been keeping us from our truest essence and our authenticity. And so we had to learn that first, then to turn around and be able to teach that to.
Yeah. And I imagine it was doubled because you're together. So I'm sure everything was amplified for both of you.
Yes.
Yeah. We really did not go into this work looking to do shadow work. I didn't even know what the term shadow work was.
We just wanted to start a podcast.
Yeah. We wanted to start a podcast. And we, through a crazy series of events, we met each other, and then that turned into, it was like right away we knew we had to work together. Like we just complemented each other really well in our work. Like she's a medium, I was an energy healer, she was a hypochondriac, I had complete self-doubt. And so she'd be like, your counsel's saying this. And I'd be like, your energy body's saying this, like you're safe, you're not dying. And so we started healing with each other off the bat. It just became our dynamic. And that developed, and we can get into that in another episode, was right before like the twin flame aspect, we found there was like an attraction all of a sudden. And so we did like begin a relationship, and a business relationship kind of simultaneously right when COVID hit and the world shut down. And we started this twin flame dynamic, which again,
I'm seeing this image of a scale getting stacked.
Oh yeah.
Heavier and heavier.
Yeah. We were friends for about a year, a little over a year. Nothing other than this draw of we need to work together.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then all of a sudden it was like, bam, there's this like spark and magnetism that just kicked on. And then it turned into, we got this, huge download of,
she got it. She was the medium. I was still in self-doubt.
Yeah. And I was scared to tell her because I was like, oh my God, I don't, the twin flame. Because I had that same perception, right?
I had never even heard of a twin flame. I had not even known that. I didn't know the term. So I do love my experience that all of the parts of it it's like I learned them and then learned the terminology for them. So I got to experience, and you too, because Andrea didn't know all the depths that went into it.
Yeah.
But basically, as we came together in this twin flame union, it was like we were wearing layers of clothes that it was like as if we had never taken off our, any pair of clothes that we'd ever put on in our life. So we had all these layers built up. And one was self-sabotage, not feeling deserving, feeling all of these beliefs that just weren't true. Yeah. And when we met, it was like we were almost forced to rip them all off one at a time.
We were packing them on this whole life just for this,
just for this moment. And as we did, we learned how to heal each other in a different way. And I just remember one day, watching something on social media or something, and people were talking about shadow work. And I was like, shadow work, that's what we're doing. We're doing shadow work. She's like, yeah, duh, you didn't know that. But we were doing it in a different way, a way that came from just the way that we interacted with each other.
That's when we discovered that the way that we do shadow work is very different from the traditional way of doing shadow work, the way that it was created. And we learned that the difference between us and how it was being done traditionally was that we were including what we deemed the sacred three. It's the mind, the body, and the soul. And so we weren't just focusing on the psyche. We weren't just focusing on the mind. We weren't just, it's like you have to include all three because all three work in tandem together. And when you don't connect the three, it's missing a part. It's not integrating fully, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of, when people are listening to this, it can sound like a lot of work. Shadow work can sound overwhelming on the outset. What do you tell people when they say that? I feel like this is too much. I feel like this is too deep or something like that. How do you guide people through that without re-traumatizing or re-overwhelming them? Because it feels like it could be really heavy to do something like that.
Yeah. Well, I want to say, first of all, that the experience that we had is not typical for most people. So when we see clients, they don't experience the deep levels of shadow. It's like, I always say, it feels like we went to into our doctorate program for this, where a lot of people who start their journey, everybody has something that they're meant to work through that they're going to then turn around and use to better the world. And this was ours, which is why ours has been it's been long. It's been a long process. It was rocky. It was tumultuous, but we're really fucking good at it.
Yeah,
like we're really good at it because of that.
We've learned to teach this in a way that people are ready for, because again, going back to that sacred three is, you could be ready in your mind, but if your body's not ready, it's not going to happen. Like you have to feel safe there too. So one of the ways that we work through this with people when it starts to, if they feel that it's overwhelming, is we remind them, and for those that are listening, you've been carrying this your whole life. So when you are dealing with shadow work, it's not going back and looking at the thing, reliving that same experience. It's not going back and like having to hash it out face to face with the person or the experience that you had. It is about acknowledging yourself, acknowledging where you're at, what you're feeling. And by doing that, you are opening up a portal for yourself and within yourself to understand and to bring clarity and awareness to this area. So it's hard because, again, it has that stigma, but when you start to do this, you realize that the hardest part is the weight that you've been carrying forever. There's such a beautiful release that comes with shadow work that makes it worth the while. It makes you keep doing it.
Once you do it once, you're like that. Oh my God, I feel so much better. I'm going to keep doing it. And it gets so much easier. But what we do is like, we walk people step by step through the way. So we literally like guide them through the process of feeling it on all three levels. And we do it in a way that we don't, one of the things that we like, when we see other people doing this way, we're like, we don't go looking for shadows. So the shadows that you're going to heal first are the ones that are presenting to you. So what we do is we learn people's story. We learn people's story in and out. We know like we get so much information from our clients, not just through talking with them, but also with our mediumship, with our energy, our medical mediumship. And we start to learn how they tick and what their backstory is. And then it's easier for us to put together pieces and we help them hone it down. So maybe they've had like 10 different experiences that they're currently happening in their life. Like, nobody's listening to me in my job. I feel like I'm just talking and nobody hears me. And, in my relationship, it turns out, oh yeah, I feel like that with my partner too. Like I'm trying to speak my feelings and they always shut me down. Oh, and people don't realize that the same theme is running through like 10 different areas of their life. Yeah. That is what's ready to heal. And what we do is we figure out where you establish a belief that that's what you deserved. Because it couldn't be in your reality energetically unless it was a match, unless there's somewhere in you energetically that is saying, no one ever listens to me. I'm unseen. I'm unheard, whatever.
Absolutely.
And we use that. So you're not healing 10 different things at once. You're healing one belief.
Yeah. And one of the best ways that we acknowledge that is we say, what is triggering you right now? Because your body is always telling you what is up to go.
Yeah. And going right back to the idea of energy in motion, showing you where you are in alignment. Yeah. And I would like people to understand shadow work is not necessarily easy, but what makes it more difficult is when you try to do it alone, because when you are going through that, if you don't have someone objectively outside who's not stuck in that emotion, it can be very hard to find a lifeline out of that. That's where people get tangled up. Right? Because if you don't have someone saying, hey, it's okay, you're not there right now, take a deep breath, let's reconnect, whatever, it's easy to see yourself slip under the waves of something like that. And emotion is heavy sometimes. So it's not that shadow work can't be done alone, but I always recommend people, if you're just starting it, please start it with someone, just so you don't get lost in the heaviness of that emotion, because it can be really easy to do that. You start going into blame and guilt and doubt, and then that's like a black hole. It'll suck you down, and then you'll put it away and you'll never do it again. But you have to face these pieces of yourself in order to feel whole. And from my own perspective, what my shadow work did for me is it helped me stop looking for someone else to make me happy. And I think as a society, we don't recognize how much we do that. Because think about when you say, I just want someone who makes me happy, well, that's great, but why? How about what if I want someone who helps facilitate my happiness? I like that better. Someone who will do things with me, not for me. Someone who will empower me, not reduce me, and I think that's a big piece that we are missing largely in American culture, because we've been fed the prince will come save you and everything will be fine and all this other stuff. And that it takes away your power. And that's a big part of shadow for women, I believe, is they've been fed this line. And for men, they've been fed the line that they have to do that role. They must fulfill that they can't feel their emotions. Yeah. And that's really engendered in our society. It needs to be addressed, because when you feel whole, it doesn't really matter what other people are doing around you, because it doesn't affect you as much. And that doesn't mean you don't have bad days or you don't have emotional days. It means that you are more in control of most of the days. And that's what gives you stability,
Yeah.
So I want to talk about how you guys practice this stuff. So tell me a little bit about NeuroSoul. What makes it different from traditional, I'm really having trouble with my tongue tied here. What makes NeuroSoul different from traditional coaching, therapy, and other healing modalities? And what does it look like when you're like working with a client? Like, tell me about a session or a series of sessions or whatever people need to know to understand that.
Okay.
So I think with NeuroSoul, well, let's give a good example. Deeper level. It gets beneath the mind, beneath the surface level, and into the body, the nervous system, the subconscious mind that's running the programs that have been built over your entire life, and your soul and its original blueprint, the essence of who it is.
Essentially what it looks like. We used to say it was the 3 R's, and now I feel like we've added a fourth R. But the first step is recognizing. If you don't know what's in there and what's like driving your everyday life experience to be what it is, that like those things that you're like, I wish I could change this. If you don't know what subconscious beliefs are driving behind it, you can't heal them. So we help you dig and find what is the belief underneath all of these patterns that you're seeing playing out around you. Once you recognize it, we help you release it. So releasing looks like releasing it from the body, releasing it from the energy system. So there we got the body and the energy body, and basically getting out any emotions that original version of you that took on that belief held in. So whether it was like, I can't speak up because every time I speak up, someone hurts me. You give that your younger self or your inner child permission to have those emotions that they never got to express. So in doing that, you're releasing it from your cells. And then we reprogram. So we're putting a new belief that is more aligned with who you are in place of the original belief. Now, they do this in, I think, theta healing and also in some other healing modalities. But it's a little bit different the way that we do it, because with our reprogramming we're doing it within the subconscious. But at the same time, that brings in the fourth R, which is, it's not that. I just added this one, so you can have to.
Mercury is.
I think it's reintegrating. Is it reintegrating?
Reintegrate. I mean, we do reintegrate it.
No, no, retrieval. It's retrieval. Because sorry. So I'm going to make you edit.
We're good. Retrieval.
Is retrieval. You have to actually bring that part of you. As in, like, this is kind of in line with like shamanic soul retrieval. You have to bring that piece of you that, like, because time isn't linear. So at some point you got stuck in a pattern, and that's playing on loop somewhere in the ethers on another timeline, right? And you have to bring that back home to you. So there you have the soul part, where you're bringing back that part of you that has been disconnected for a long time because it wasn't safe to be that.
And that's a big part that a lot of people miss, that, that we were taught within our own experiences, our own healing, and our own modality, is bringing that back, getting to the source. It's like you can band-aid the top, but if you don't get down into the source and heal it at the source, it will just continue to revive and wreak havoc.
Mm-hmm. Now, the beauty of this system is that when we start out with people, we do a very specific protocol and we lead them through it step by step. But our goal is for the people who leave us, these amazing souls that the whole goal is for them to call back their power. So we don't want them to rely on us as their healers for the rest of their life. Right. So what we do is we teach you how to do this for yourself. And once you get good at it, your energy body, your soul, your mind all start to get on board. And they're like, I get it. This is how we do it. And they learn the pattern. So once you do it a few times, we teach people how to start doing it themselves. And we always tell people you can be doing shadow work while you're in a conversation with somebody. Your mother is talking down on you, telling you you should have a job right now. You should be married right now. And you could be sitting there thinking, wow, she's really showing me something that needs to heal, because the fact that she's mirroring this, and I'm feeling this in my body, and you can be doing it while you're speaking to somebody. So, or while you're driving. So the goal is we start you out with the protocol, and then we give you the tools to implement it into your daily life. So shadow work becomes easy because you start to learn how to find the triggers, and you start to recognize them really quick, and you get really good at it. And then once you do, you can heal it on the spot if you want to. And so you're up leveling literally by hours, 1 hour, you're like a mess falling apart, and you're like, hold on, there's something here for me to learn. And the next hour you're like, I have so much clarity, and you just, it's like night and day.
Once you follow these steps, we've found, again, with science, right? So as within, so without. As you transform and alchemize that on the inside, your external reality has to match it. So it starts to shift and move and change. And it has just been amazing, the results that we've seen our clients have in a matter of days. It's
changing you literally change your reality, but you also jump timelines that way. You're jumping into another timeline, another dimension, because there are multiple dimensions at all times. And there are some where you're still in you're kind of stuck, but there are some where you are really connected and you have a lot, things are easier. You jump when you heal. You jump to higher frequencies where all of a sudden you might, we had one client who she had a really tumultuous relationship with her stepmother, who was her primary caregiver from a very young age. And she did not think that would ever change. And so into adulthood, she was they were estranged. They were disconnected, and they had had tried to reconnect for a little bit, but she did one session with us, and it was around, I'm not enough, believing I'm not worthy of your love, basically. Yeah. And within 2-3 days later, her mother reached out to her and was like, I just want to apologize to you for everything that you ever went through. I want to rebuild our relationship. We just talked about it. And she was like, sometimes I think that another soul walked into her body, because she would have never done that. But she elevated her vibration to another timeline where that was available by releasing that baggage that was she.
Yeah. That I'm not worthy wound, that's a big one. That's really carried. Big. I think almost everybody carries that. And not just because of your own family experience, but because we live in a society that promotes competition.
Yes.
It promotes better performance over someone else. It promotes pushing someone down. So this is something that's deeply ingrained in us. And I think it affects a lot of what we do, because we feel like we must earn it. And it's not meant to be that way. So I love what you guys are working on. I think you have a great program, and I love everything you're talking about. What do you want people to know about their own power to heal, especially if they feel like they're lost and they've tried everything and they're just spinning their wheels? What would you say to them if they're sitting right in front of you right now?
That's a good question.
I would say stop looking outside of yourself for the answers. Start getting clear on the verbiage that's happening in your mind, and decipher what is the mind looping around and what is your soul whispering to you. because everybody has that capability. It doesn't matter how tuned out you are, your heart, you feel like your heart is shut down, or, your soul, your higher self, your counsel, they're always communicating with you. And sometimes what I've learned is when you stop grasping for everything outside of yourself to fix it, and you just sit with it and surrender, that is when you will start getting the answers. That is when you will start getting direction from an internal base that is never going to lead you astray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you stop running from how you feel. Yeah. And experience your feelings,
Mm-hmm. And I would throw in there, like, to just know that what it is that has been your normal for a long time isn't your soul's normal. So you're not supposed, like, so many people think, well, that's just life. Life is hard. I'm not meant to be happy in this lifetime. Maybe, there are a lot of things that we deem as normal that aren't normal. It's not normal to have dis-ease in the body every day.
Right.
Even the body, and that's something we didn't even get to touch on, but even the body, a lot of the feedback we get for, like, if we don't know what, we always know what people's shadow work is, like, we're really good at it. It's pinpointing it, because, like, we've just gotten so good. We do it so much with, like, the digging aspect. But if people have, like, you have a physical ailment presenting from the body is actually telling you, hey, something needs to change. So, like, those things you think are normal are not normal. And so if you're just like, well, this is just how it is, I'm not meant to experience joy. Maybe I'm not meant to fulfill a purpose. Maybe I'm not meant to be happy or have a loving relationship or have somebody support me, like, that I also support. Like, that's not normal. You're meant for more. Those are all just patterns and beliefs that are keeping you stuck. And because I remember having all of the things that people strive to have. Like, I had the new car, the big house. I had at the time I had my now ex-husband and my kids, and, like, the 2 kids and the white picket fence. Like, I had all the things. And I just remember being like, if someone were to come up to me today and say, are you happy? I would be like, no. And I couldn't put my finger on why, but that is the first indicator that something is not aligning with you.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing. Something's not aligning.
You hear a lot of celebrities tell that story. Mm-hmm. I thought when I got the big role, when I made the $1 million paycheck, when I had the beautiful girl, when I had this, that I would be fulfilled. Dax Shepard is really good about talking about that. He fights with addiction a lot. He talks about how he always told himself, when I'm famous, when I'm successful, when I'm this, when I'm that. And he found himself in that place in the worst state of addiction he'd ever been in, because he was just trying to numb himself, because he thought, I should feel better. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to do whatever I need to artificially make that happen. Yeah. And it wasn't until he hit rock bottom and had to decide, I need to make myself better, that his life, and he talks about that a lot. So
wow.
No one should feel alone in this. Every person I've ever interacted with does this. Mm-hmm. But something that I think is important to remember, there's a guy, his name is Zig Ziglar. Way back in the day when I used to sell timeshares, and we're talking like 30 years ago, we had to read this book to sell these timeshares, and that's a whole nother thing. But he had a phrase in there where he said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and thinking something's going to change. At some point, you have to change something in order to receive change.
Yeah.
You can't just keep spinning on the hamster wheel. Yeah. And I think for a lot of us, that's kind of what we're doing, is we're frustrated that nothing's changing, yet we're not making any actionable choices, I
love that you're saying that, because I think that is another one that we often see, is when people are confronted with their shadows or the aspects of these things need to change. The very first thing that we hear so much is, well, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. It's too scary. And we have been conditioned to believe that we cannot lead ourselves, that we need to be led. And we are conditioned from the time that we can walk, that we have to follow. And so when you are confronted with, I now have to take responsibility for myself, I now have to lead myself, that is very scary for a lot of people, but it is the most liberating thing. It is the thing that takes you out of the cage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's kind of like being a young adult and moving out of your parents' house for the first time. You've had your parents feed, clothe, and take care of you for 18 years. And all of a sudden you're on your own and you have to figure out, how do these things work and how do I do it for myself? And there's always the comfort. You can always go back to home, sure, but you're going to be at home again. You're not going to have the freedom. You're going to have all that stuff. So it's a learning process. This is not something that happens overnight. It's not something that you can just run full tilt into and expect it to go smooth as butter. It doesn't work that way. It's going to have lots of ups and downs, but that's how you know it's sustainable. That's how you know that it's actually working. When you see people who lose a lot of weight, if they lose it right away, they're going to gain it right back. But if they change their behavior, if they change their diet, they change their activity, they change things like that, suddenly the weight is gone and it stays off. But it's a behavioral change. This isn't just woo. This is science. This is psychology. This is reprogramming your brain, but doing it from a more holistic picture than what Western science anyway tends to offer. So that's what's so great about your program, is that it's full circle. It's everything that somebody would need. And the hallmark of a good teacher is that they want their student to surpass them. So giving them their tools so that they can then work for themselves is really, really great.
Yeah. Especially like when the people that we work with, like the majority, I think pretty much everybody that we work with feels or knows somewhere in their soul that there's a reason that they're here and they have a purpose to fulfill. Some of them are just meant to just shine their light and just be in this world. They raise the vibration of the planet just by being more of their authentic self. Some of them are going to go on and they want to teach other people. They want to heal other people. And I think one of the things that like speaking on things like misconceptions about shadow work is just to, feel better, to release your inner wounds. But for us and for so many people that we work with, it's how you step into your purpose, because you can't get in front of people and start feeling like confidently healing people if you haven't walked through it yourself to know how to go from the low to the, dig yourself out of that hole. Yeah. And so many people, the biggest thing that I love about this work is that usually almost like 90% of the time, whatever it is that has been the hardest thing for you to work through in your life is going to be what you're going to turn around and help other people do, because you will become so passionate about it because it has been your life's work to overcome.
And that is the treasure that is buried beneath the shadow.
Yeah. And that goes along very closely with what I tend to tell people, what I believe for myself. When people say, I can't find my purpose. And I said, what if you're your purpose? What if it's you? What if your purpose in this life experience is to rediscover yourself? And the side effect of that is you help other people do the same thing.
Exactly.
Your purpose is not to heal them. Your purpose is to heal you. And through your own healing, you can't help it. You have a call. You feel the call to share this with someone else. That's what you're calling your purpose, but your purpose is here. And when you do that healing, like you said, it's usually the thing you struggled with the most in your life is what you come through, and then you help others overcome that. That is so powerful because your experience speaks to them. They feel comforted and seen, and shared experience is a big deal. In modern medicine, there's none of that. You go to a doctor in a sterile room who listens to you for 30 seconds and then writes you a prescription and sends you out the door and never asks you how you're feeling, why it happened, where did it happen, this sort of stuff. So this is the idea of getting the other side of that. But, don't go into shadow work because you want to find your purpose for other people. I don't think go into shadow work so that you can figure yourself out. The purpose, the how you're going to help other people, how you're going to shine, that'll take care of itself. You don't have to look for it. It's right there. You just have to get out of your way, And
that's why we always ask people, what do you want? Most people don't know what they want, but it's like, what do you want? I want money. I want this. So you want freedom.
Yes.
You want expansion. You want peace. Like those things money can't buy. Having money, obtaining that through that magnetism, whatever, that's a byproduct.
Right.
But ultimately what you want is to be you. And we tell people all the time, it's like, you are there's this desire in all of us to become something great, to do something great, and to find what that is. And it really is like soul resurrection, because that drive is innately and divinely placed in there to lead you back home to yourself, because you are the great thing. You are the thing that lights up your world. And once you are back home within yourself, when you've rediscovered yourself, when you're sitting in the essence of who you are, you naturally create beauty. You naturally create wholeness. You naturally give off magnetism, because you are it. It's you. It's always been you.
Mm-hmm. Right. And maybe that's one of the biggest parts of shadow work, is the recognition that it doesn't come from outside. It comes from inside.
Exactly.
That's something we've all been conditioned on. I mean, I tell people all the time, your whole life, you've been told, ask your mom, ask your dad, ask your teacher, ask your principal, ask the police, ask the judge. You've never been asked, ask you. Nobody's ever asked you that. So the first time that happens, it's a little disconcerting. You don't know what to say. And I agree. I will ask clients, what do you want? And often they give me a laundry list of all the things they don't want. And I'm sitting here going, well, okay, but that's not what I asked you. What do you want? And, again, to the idea of I want a full bank account. That's great. Why? Well, because then I can do whatever I want. What does that look like? Well, I don't know. Okay, there's the problem. So we need to figure out, what do you actually want? What is the feeling you want to have? What is the feeling you think that physical thing is going to give you? And then find another way to experience that feeling, lining up with the vibration of it, and allow the other things to come forward. That's all part of that,
Yeah, it's all frequency and vibration. It's just aligning. So the more you align with your authentic self, who knows that it's supported, that knows that it's abundant, that knows that it has freedom, that remembers all those things, then the more that you attract those other vibrations that match that.
Yes. Manifestation is not magic. It is resonance, friends. That's all it is. That's all it is.
And that's what we get on the real woo side of things. We tell them, we're like, you have to do this. Like, you have to clear out the old patterns so that you can create through manifesting, right? Co-creation, what it is that you really want.
Yeah.
Because it's not, you're not manifesting based off of your words. You're manifesting off of what you are resonating at, what you are, the frequency you hold.
Yes. And just as a reminder to everyone, law of attraction, friends, is neutral. It doesn't care if you want it or not. If you're focused on it, guess what you're getting. So be mindful of that. You can't push against something and try to get away from it at the same time. And Ram Dass used to talk about that. Esther Hicks talks about that. Esther Hicks very famously says, you declared a war on drugs. How's that going? You declared a war on teenage pregnancy. How's that going? You can't push against something and expect something different to happen, because your focus is still on that thing. You have to find an alternative. And for a lot of my clients, I say, be the alternative, because right now a lot of people feel helpless and there's a lot going on. They don't know what to do. And it's not that I'm advocating for people to ignore the world, but I am advocating for people to be the alternative. Instead of being the walking angry person in your neighborhood, be the person who walks around and says hi to everybody. You never know what that small, simple piece of kindness can do for someone in their day. Open the door for somebody. If you see a little kid with a lemonade stand, buy some lemonade. Be the alternative, be the good feeling, and give people somewhere else to focus. If you stop, just like, your annoying little sister, if you stop paying attention to them, they stop it in the head. You know what I'm saying? So you got to shift your focus over.
Yeah. And we always when we have people come to us and they're like really worried about the state of the world, we're like, all right, what is this mirroring to you? What is the feeling that this news story in the media is provoking in you? Like, what's it triggering? So you can utilize that stuff also for more shadow work, because it's upsetting you for a reason, know?
Absolutely.
So if you can't get past it, there's a belief there that's being challenged.
Unless you're fully present, you are running off of programs.
Yes.
And those programs are your beliefs.
Yes.
So
100%.
There's a lot of room to do the shadow work to find those programs when you are operating from,
Yeah, I agree. All right. So for somebody who's curious about your work, where do they begin? What's the best first step if someone says, hey, that's for me, I want to work on that? What do you tell them to do? What do they do?
I think first of all, follow us on Instagram. It's Lindrea_co, and all of our information is linked from there. But we did just come out with an ebook that is free.
That's exciting.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going to walk you through like the understanding of what really is keeping you stuck in these loops, what those loops are, how they look, and just really give you that understanding. And then from there, we actually are coming out with a new masterclass where we're going to be talking about like how to find these things in your own life, how to understand what specifically is keeping you stuck from moving forward. And then we also offer private sessions. We have an awesome Patreon tribe that we're this community where we have like live streams. We have community chat. It's basically like our soul family that we have, like we're still slowly collecting of people who are like-minded, who are like, I want to do the work. I want to feel better. I want to step it more into my purpose.
It's also a very
support each other.
Yeah, it's a very along the way to go to be as you explore your awakening and just these things that are changing within yourself. And it's in a group of like-minded people.
They've become family.
It's all kind of grouped together. And we also do discovery calls where we will spend, about 15 minutes with you if you are just curious as to like, what does this look like for me? And what are the next steps I need to take? So we do offer those as well.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, ladies, it has been an absolute joy to talk to you as always. And lucky me, I got to look at you too. Thank you for this. And I appreciate it. You guys make sure you check them out. Their website will be linked in the show notes. Please reach out to them on Instagram or go check out their masterclass. They have a lot to offer and some wonderful, wonderful knowledge, not to mention they're just great people. So go check it out, you guys. And until next time, we will see y'all later.
Thank